Do you ever have moments in the practice where you feel like you're compromising your own integrity?
At the Dental MVP, we are obsessed with science-based tips and tricks for you, the dental professionals. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, the Dental MVP, and don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss out.
In this video, we're going to go through what boundaries are, how to set them, and what to do if they're crossed.
Studies have shown that not setting personal boundaries leads to an increase in interpersonal conflict. In order to set boundaries, you first have to know what they are.
A boundary is a limit that defines your relationship to someone or something. It can be emotional or it can be physical. It really just gives clarity to what your relationship is and what your expectations are.
The first step in setting boundaries is getting clear with your limits, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it may be. Know what your limits are and start to see what you can tolerate and not tolerate within the workplace. Pay close attention to those things that really make you feel stressed and you can't tolerate.
Yeah, there are actually 3 key emotions that you're really going to look out for understanding if maybe a boundary has been crossed for you. So it's going to be either discomfort, resentment, guilt. If one of those feelings arise to you, it's a good indicator that someone has crossed a boundary for you. So slow down and think about what it is that may have occurred that put you into that state.
Once we have identified what it is that makes us feel uncomfortable, it's really important for us to know our why. Why does this make us feel uncomfortable? We have to be able to have conversations with our colleagues, friends, and coworkers to be able to clearly identify what it is that makes us uncomfortable. We can't just sit there and say, I don't like it. It doesn't work that way.
No, we have to be able to clearly explain to our team how this is going to either affect team culture, our relationships within the practice, the quality of care that we have for our patients, and have a concrete explanation. It can't just be an independent thing because overall we are a team. Being able to explain to your team members clearly what your why is for why you've established a boundary is the first step in creating clarity with boundaries. So we have to be able to discuss with the full team what it is that we're comfortable with and ensure that we're all in agreement, because realistically, we want the whole practice to have a shared vision in what's appropriate and what's not. One of the easiest ways to implement these shared visions is through our policies and procedures.
Policies and procedures is probably the most effective way to clearly have this team concrete boundaries listed out. What policies and procedures do you have in your practice? Appointment links, what to do when a patient refuses treatment, what to do if a patient is late, or maybe you don't have any of these. Time to have a team meeting. There are some team boundaries that we recommend setting within the practice that can really help, and there's 3 of them. Some team policies and procedures that we recommend you set together would be, first off, your job responsibilities. Whose job is it anyway? Who do you report to? Who tasks you with things? Who's responsible for what? Those are important descriptions to have within the practice, and that's something that you should create together.
The second one is interpersonal boundaries. So what are our expectations for how we communicate with one another or within the team? How do we resolve conflict? How do we come up with solutions? This is a great one to be able to put in your initial hiring and onboarding paperwork, is really setting that expectation for how is it that we interact with one another on a daily basis.
And lastly, you have to have your personal boundaries. What is it that you have uncovered that you are uncomfortable with, and making sure to have that clear, concrete conversation with your team.
So what do we do if a boundary is crossed? So it's going to happen. It's not always intentional, not always. Sometimes maybe it's intentional.
Sometimes it definitely is.
But everybody has different expectations for what their boundaries are, and so they may not be aware of what your boundaries are. So first thing first, we want to make sure that it's brought up immediately. So making sure that there is clarity, that you bring it to the forefront right off. That's going to have the biggest impact in making sure that people are aware if something happened that made you uncomfortable, you bring it up then.
You mean you don't want to let it stew for like 2 weeks and then bring it up later?
No, because they probably won't remember what you're even talking about, because the emotional burden that it had on you, they weren't even aware of it. They just breezed right through.
That's true. Also, you really want to ensure that if there is an alternative, that you offer that as well, right? So we can't just always be complaining. We have to be looking for solutions. We might have a personal boundary, and again, like you said, it's not always a shared boundary. So if there's that conflict and you're in the workplace, you need to be able to have an alternative when possible.
Yeah, I mean, I have an 18-month-old, so anytime I ask her a question, it's like, do you want to put your shoes on? No. And so now I say, would you like the purple shoes or the blue shoes?
Options. Options are always great. Exactly. Visualize someone crossing your boundaries. How would you handle that conversation? What would it look like and what would you say? The best way to be prepared for a situation like that is to practice. Run through it and see how you would handle the conversation.
Saying no is a lot easier said than done. When it comes down to those situations that we have to tell our team members no, or even friends no, we think about how that impacts them emotionally. But a big way to deter ourselves from thinking about it in that aspect is thinking about what it is that we can gain by saying no. So if it's adding another appointment into the day by crunching your schedule to accommodate a COE,
Getting to lunch on time.
Maybe saying no ensures that you're able to, yes, get to lunch on time. That's great. But you're also able to have more in-depth conversations with your patients, which could lead to improved patient experience, increased case acceptance. So as long as you're aware of what it is that you can gain by saying no, sometimes it can be a little bit easier to approach those conversations.
Make sure to take a look at your policies and procedures and start getting together with your team and ensure that you all have set the boundaries clearly and concretely within the practice. Did you like this video? Don't forget to like us and never forget to subscribe to our channel, The Dental MVP.